Alright, hi guys. My name is Miss Rose and I'm here representing Code Connect today. Today we're going to be going over how to make a quick first person character game where you can pick up an item and then after you collect so many of them, it'll pop up with a message and say you won. So let's get started. New project, first person core. We're using 2020.3.30 and I'm just going to name this and I'll call this pick up object example. Alright. Alright, so it looks like it has now finally loaded. We'll get started. I like working in 2x3 layout. I always change this to one column layout in the middle. Next, I'm going to start by grabbing these three. Copy them. I'm going to go to a new scene. Basic built-in, create. Going to paste those three in here. Going to create a new empty. Going to call it player. I'm just going to stick these three inside of that and then hide it. Go to main camera on the top one. I'm going to delete that. We now have the very beginning of what we need to start. So first, let's create a floor for us. Yep, that's good. Then we'll change this. Let's say 20 and 20. So now if I play, I can now jump around our area. And I can jump off. Alright, that's good. Alright, so now that I have that, let's work on trying to pick something up. So what do I want to pick up? Let's look up on the asset store. Windows, asset store. Let's look up crystal. And we will go to sort by free assets. I like these translucent crystals, so we'll open those ones up. Open in Unity, open. We'll let that catch the package. We will import it, and then we'll import. Or not, okay. We went faster than expected. Alright, so that got put into a folder called tutorial info. So before we get started, let's organize a bit of this. So I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to just call it starting. And I'm just going to throw all of this inside there. Perfect. I'm also going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it downloads. And I'm going to put the folder that we just downloaded called tutorial info inside that folder. That's just an easy way for us to keep track of stuff. So let's take a look. We have icons, scripts. Oh, looking at the wrong one. Did I put it in? Oh, okay. Nope, I messed up. Alright, so now that I have the signed VFX, I'm just going to put this back into the starting. So I'm going to open up the translucent crystals. I'm going to look at the options available to me. Also going to look at these. I like this one, so I'm going to use the URP. That should prevent us from having any ping for this example. When I drag this over, I can automatically have different crystals that I can use. They get kind of cool. They have cool effects you can put on them. Alright, so if I want to make this even more interesting, let's throw away boxes and get even more sophisticated. So we'll delete this cube. Instead, let's add something called a terrain. Alright, we have this big thing. I'm just going to grab all of these things right here. I'm going to stick this up here. Just going to drag these all the way over here. That looks good. Alright, next I'm going to download some quick grass from the asset store. And we're going to make sure we're going for free. So lowest to highest. And I'm going to grab this in. And we're going to open in Unity, open, grass and flowers, pack 1, import, import. And we're also going to bring one more thing in. And we don't have any trees yet, so let me try something real quick. Asset store. We'll go low to high again. And we'll just grab this palm tree. Accept, open in Unity, open, download, we'll let that run through. Alright, we'll hit import, import, lighting tools, we don't need to worry about that. This says loading offers. Alright, let's try this again, add tree, and we'll see what pops up for trees. Alright, so they're not underneath there. Here they are. Alright, so they're just being called palm. We'll grab this one because it's not pink, though we could fix it. Alright, so we have a bunch of really cool trees they've now added. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm just going to adjust the brush tool a bit. Let's see, we have the tree density, let's decrease that. Let's also increase the brush size. That's a bit better. I'm gonna hit it one more time just so we have a little bit more density. And again, and again, and again, and again, again, and again. That should do it. Alright, got a bit more flexibility there. So I like that so far. Let's try adding that. I'm just curious if we can actually add the grass through this one. Nope. Flower? Nope. Alright, let's go back to here. Add grass texture. Oh, there we go. I don't know why that didn't work, but alright, let's just increase that brush size. And we will decrease the target strength and increase the brush size some more. We'll zoom out. We'll bring this all the way around. Alright, we now have some cool grass that we can now run on. And let's see if we can add some more cool effects going on. So I'm going to switch back to 2x3. Alright, so let's get back to where we were. I want to add some wind as well. Been a little while since I've added this. Wind zone, directional, we'll call it spherical, and we'll see what happens when we play. And everything should be moving. So now we actually have some movement going on. That's really good. Although our player at the moment is kind of short. That may not be necessarily the best gameplay. So let's see if we can fix that. Let's just increase everything about the player. Alright, now the player is taller, however, now those trees are really short. So let's see if we can fix that now. Go back to the train, let's take a look at what we have here. So we added trees by putting them in here. So what we can do is edit trees. What we're going to do is delete this one. So remove this one. That will remove all the trees we just added. Edit trees, add tree. We're going to re-add in the palm. I'll pick a new one this time. Doesn't really matter which. And again, I could change it from pink to something else. These are just duplicates, as you can see. So I'll click that tree. So when I go back to the terrain, that one didn't add. I do that one again. Add. There we go. Alright, so I'm gonna click that once. Those trees are a bit taller. However, what I really wanted to show you guys was that you can actually manipulate how tall the trees are. So I'm going to undo that with Control Z or Command Z, depending on what you have. So if we go to Edit Trees, Edit Tree, Bend Factor, let's try increasing that by 5. Let's see, Tree Height. We say Random, and we want to set that to be a bit higher. And we'll bring this one to be a bit higher there. Tree density, we'll leave that there. Color variation, let's get a bit more variation, shall we? That's good. Now let's go back to adding in some more of those other trees. So add tree. I'll get that first tree that we had grabbed before. Let's set that as a bend factor of 5. And the tree height, that was already set there. And then I'm going to bring that a little bit further down for this particular tree. Lock width to height. Yeah, I'll keep that there. So I've just added in some more trees. So now if I play this, now I got this really cool scene that I can now run around in. However, the player is a bit slow. So let's fix the speed of the player, shall we? So I'm going to go to player. We're going to take a look at what makes up the code for the player. Alright, so we're in player capsule, first person controller. We have the mood speed. Let's try changing that to 10. Sprint seat, we'll change that to 15. Rotation, we'll change 2. Speed change rate, keep that the same. Jump height, we'll say 1.5. Gravity will keep the same. Fallout, grounded, yes. Alright, let's give it another quick try. Let's see if we move a bit faster. Alright, we're moving back faster. I like that. It's a pretty decent speed. I don't want to have the player too overpowered. And we're jumping, Perfect. Alright, so let's see if we can scatter these crystals to new locations. But before we do that, I want to see if we can give them all the same tag, because we're going to need that when we're coding. So let's come in here. So if you notice, I have a lot of stuff coming up here. So let's see if we can organize this a bit. Create empty. I'm going to just call this crystals. And I'm going to dump all these crystals into here. So now I can hide it. So then that's more easier to look at. So we're going to create a new tag by clicking one. Coming over to add tag. Add. We're going to call this crystal. Crystals with an S. Save that. And then going to select all these at the same time, come up here and change them all to crystals. So now when I click any of these, they're all named crystals. Alright, that's good. Alright, let's see if we can start moving these around a bit. Alright, so we have our crystals. Might have to do a little bit more work with them. That's okay. So we'll play the game real quick. Alright, so I see the crystals and I can walk into them. Nothing happens yet, but at least we have our starting scene. And we can jump around, everything looks kind of cool. The wind's still going. Alright, let's see what we can do now. So now we're going to start on the coding aspects. We already have a folder named scripts. So we're going to start here. Just going to right click, create, and we'll create a C script. We'll call this collection. Good. And we'll open that up. Alright, so starting out, this is the name of our script up here, and we're going to create a couple of variables that we're going to need down the road. First, we're going to create a starting variable, so public int, we'll call this current crystal. So this keeps an integer value of our current crystals. We create another one, public int max crystal. So this will be how many crystals we have to pick up. So I'll put a little comment here. So starting amount character has, and then this will be amount character needs. Going from that, I'm also going to be showing you guys how to actually incorporate text into this game. So here we go. We're going to create something called a public text, and we'll call this text counter. And it looks like that auto-corrected. Now notice that we have a red here. The reason why we have a red here is because there's something we haven't added yet. So up here we're going to add using Unity engine.ui. So what this does is this allows us to use text within our game and to reference it through our code. This allows us to set text equal to different variables that we set. So I'm going to call this one text used to display crystals. I can program, I can't spell worth anything. Alright, so now what we're going to be doing is we're not going to, the void start happens at the very start of a game, and it can be useful in certain scenarios. However, we're not going to be using it at this time, so just to make things less clutter, we're going to delete that. Update, as it says here, is called once every frame. I'm just going to get rid of that comment because I don't need that. Alright, next what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating the ability to run into objects. So we're going to create a new private. Actually, I'm just going to show you the shortcut because it's easier. So Unity, and what we're going to be looking up is Unity on trigger enter. We're going to scripting API collider on trigger enter Unity manual. This is where you can find free snippets of code that you can actually use. And we're just going to come here and we're going to copy these 4 lines of code right here. Private void on trigger enter collider.other. And I will explain how this works and what you need to make it work. So I've just copied these 4 lines here. I'm going back to my code. And I'm just going to stick those underneath the void update. We're not using speed, so we can delete those. So starting from here, we need to identify, this says if we're colliding into something, and wherever we're colliding into is being referred to as the other object. So if I bump into you, you are now called the other. So if the other object that we collide into, and we're going to be referencing the object, so game object dot tag. We're going to be checking the tag of the object that we run into. Equals. You always need double equal signs or exclamation equal or lesser equal or greater or equal. You can't just have one equal sign when you're doing if statements. So then we're going to be naming it the exact same that we named it in our tag. So this is crystal, so C-R-Y-S-T-A-L-S, crystals. I'm just going to double check that that is exactly how we spelled it. Crystals with an S. Alright, now that we have that, I'm just going to end that. Alright, so now what we're going to be doing is we have to say what happens when we run into a crystal. Well, when we run into a crystal, we want our current amount of crystals to increase by 1. I'm just going to copy this variable and say this plus equals 1. I can also add another fancy thing in here. Why don't we say public int crystal worth. And then we can actually set that in the game. So instead of adding 1, we're going to add the crystal worth. So that works. Alright, and next we want to delete the crystal that we ran into. So in order to do that, we're going to do destroy the other object that we ran into, game object. Alright, so that's the first part of the script that we need. This will allow us to run into something named crystal. It it will give us points equal to wherever we set in the game, and then it will destroy that other object. So we're going to save that, and minimize out of that, go back to our game. So before I do that, I need to actually put this script onto the player. So I'm going to put that on the player capsule, because the player capsule has already a collider on it. If you see this green thing around the player, that is a capsule collider that comes with the actual player. So next, we're going to drag collection onto the player capsule. We notice that puts all this stuff down here. A couple other things we're going to need is we're going to set the crystal worth. We'll say 1. And we're also going to add a quick counter while we're at it, just so we don't get any errors. Up here to hierarchy, we're going to UI, we're going to canvas. We now have our canvas, which is shown right here. Canvas is this little rectangle is basically what we see in our screen, and the second rectangle behind it is what the camera is seeing. So from canvas, we're going to go to UI, and we're going to add some text. This text shows up in the middle. You can't really see it here because of all the trees that are in the way. So let's see if we can change the color of that real quick. There you go. Now you see the red. So a couple things here. You can increase the font size. It will make it bigger. However, eventually it will disappear because you're going outside of its bounds. In order to see its bounds, you come up here to the rectangle tool. You can see its bounds. So if you want to make it bigger, you can increase its bounds. Next, I'm going to center it by changing these options over here for the alignment, and I'm going to make this bigger. I'm also going to change it from wrap to overflow. This means that if I exceed the bounds, I can just continuously add on to it. And next, let's see. Now, if I were to keep making it bigger, it's still going to go out of, still going to disappear. So I'll make that bigger by increasing that, and that's about good. I'll call this crystal, and we will say 0 out of 0. So next, I'm just going to drag this over. I noticed, as I said before, this back part was the camera, and this is our front part. Sometimes I accidentally go out of that screen, so I have to go back. Alright, so coming back here, just going to drag this over here to the top right. And next I'm going to go back to the canvas, and I'm going to change this from constant pixel size to scale with screen size, and I'm going to change the width to match the height. This means that anytime I shrink or decrease the screen, it will relatively stay in the same place. So now if I play real quick, right now that is outside the screen area. If you notice up here in the top left, it's because that's actually outside of the border. So let's fix that real quick. Right there. Alright, so let's play that again. Did I mess that up again? I did. Nope, that's still out of... Alright, nope, we're good. Okay, that's still in bounds. Alright, so now when I do that, that's good. Alright, so now I run around. Nothing's happening to the crystals yet because we haven't set that part up. So, going back to the player, going back to the player capsule, continuing off where we left off. This text right here is we're going to be dragging that into the text counter. At the moment, that won't update anything because we haven't done anything in our script yet. We'll get to that. Current crystals, we don't have to touch that. Max crystals, let's see how many crystals we have in here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's going to be 6 crystals that we want to collect. So I'm just going to change that to 6. See, next we need to make it so we can actually run into the crystals. So according to this, where we went before to figure out what this script does, both game objects need to contain a collider. Well, the capsule collider on the player is already a collider, so that part's taken care of. However, I don't believe there's a collider on the actual crystal itself. So let's go double check that. Alright, so I have this selected, but nothing green is popping up. So we're going to add component, and we'll add a box collider. It's hard to see, but it's in the middle, and it's kind of small. So let's increase the size. We'll say 2, 2, 2. Increase it again, 3, 3, 3. So you can start to see it now. Let's raise that up a bit. It's a little bit off center too. That should be good enough for us to run into it. So basically, we'll just do that real quick with the other crystals. So I did the 7. I'll do now an easy way of doing this. Copy this. So we're going to click this controller, copy it, and we're going to do copy component. Next, I'm going to select all of these other crystals we haven't done yet, and I'm going to add component, box collider, and I'm going to right click, paste component values. This automatically paste the component values that we just set for the first crystal for all the other crystals. This makes it a lot easier so you don't have to individually do every single one. Now that we have that set, now that both of them have colliders, one of them has to be a trigger enter. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all these crystals, and we're going to select is trigger. So if I go through these and just check that all the values are the same, and they are, and all of them have the tag crystal, so that's good. And if both game objects have an is trigger, nothing will happen. We only have one of them set to that. So let's see. If we play the game and run into a crystal. So I'm going to drag this up. Oop, now we disappeared. Alright, so if you notice, we can actually run into crystals now and they disappear. However, our points are not going up, or at least that's what it looks like. In fact, they are. So I just press exit to get my mouse back. I'm going to go to player capsule and scroll down. We're actually at 4 crystals as it shows over here, but it's not updating over here. So let's work on that next. Next, we will go to pick up object example right here. Alright, so we're going to write an if statement. If our current crystal, and notice because I've already created this value before, it automatically pops up. And when I press space, it automatically puts it in. So that way I don't have to retype variables over and over and over. So we'll say that if our current crystals are less than our max crystals, then we want to make something happen. And what we want to make happen is we want it to display our current account. So we're going to say we have our text named text counter. So we're going to grab this dot text, and we're going to set that equal to something. So for this, you can actually add text inside your game. So whatever I post in here, it will automatically display. So I'll show you a quick example. So we're going to save that, and we'll go back to play, and this should change this text in here. It did. Alright, go back to this. Excuse me. Alright, pick up object example. Alright, so what we want to do is we want to name this crystals. Next, what we want to do is we want to add the variable that we're keeping track. But before we do that, we're going to add a space, because it does recognize spaces. Do a plus, and we're going to say our current crystal amount. After our current crystal amount, we're then going to add another plus, and then we're going to add 2 more of these. This, another plus, and then our max crystals. This will give us, it'll make it look like a percentage. So it will show our current crystals slash our max crystals that we needed, that we actually put in there. Now this text will only show if we have less crystals than the max. So we also want to create another if statement saying that if our current crystals is greater or equal to our max crystals, then we want to make something happen. So instead of this happening, we're going to copy this and just paste it down here, and we're going to delete this part, and we're just going to say you win. So file, save, and that's pretty much all we need in order to get started. So let's go take a look at our game now. Alright, so we went up to 1. Just going to jump over 2. See if I can find all my crystals. 4. Alright, I think I found them all. 5. And let's see if this changes to win. You win! Yay! Alright, I hope this tutorial was helpful for people who are just getting started with Unity. Feel free to use this example to create your own codes. You can use your own objects. Definitely try to explore with the terrain editor, and I can actually go into further details if you want to change the color of the ground, if you want to add different types of trees or different types of grass. Just send me a message and I'll see what I can do to help you. I am hoping to see everybody on next Saturday for office hours, so I can further provide assistance. Alright, this is Miss Rose signing out, and thank you for your time. And bye.